Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you folks doing today? Today's the 15th of March, 2026. I believe tomorrow's going to be St. Patty's Day. We all know the Patrick Day parade jokes and everything else. The green, the Irish, all kinds of things going to be happening throughout the nation tomorrow in celebration of our Irish roots and our heritage. I also am part Irish by ethnicity. Concentrating on my t-shirt right now. DD214 alumni. Why am I doing that? Because those people who have been in the military know what a DD214 is. It's your discharge paperwork. It's your history that denotes everything that you did while you were in the service. Everything. Your job, your description, your entry date, your departure date, good time, bad time, your specialty skills, your award, your deployments, educational level, the whole 9 yards, the whole gambit. How y'all doing? Leo Naranjo here, candidate for governor, 2026 race. Why am I making this video today as opposed to any other video that I've made in the past? Because this one needs to get out into the public view. We're going to start putting these videos, especially this type of video, out to the media starting on Monday. And I'm going to do a campaign blitz because of what was uncovered this past week. First of all, let me thank my supporters, those that are out there, and those who support the cause, but haven't yet financially, of trying to make this state different, of trying to fight for this state the right way, of not seizing it up to figure out how much can we plunder and get what most other people haven't gotten to yet. Saturday last week, we had an event down in Sacramento. Dealt with child trafficking. Big rally in Sacramento. Yep, bunch of folks there. Excellent outpouring. Very informative and very vocal. I was present. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, kind of chill, kind of quiet. Wednesday, I take it back. Tuesday, that night, had a CRA endorsement meeting. California Republican Assembly in Sacramento. Very interesting. Some of the things said there, I'll leave it at that. The next night, on the 11th, March 11th, 5 p.m. in Danville, California, we had a forum, Governor Forum. Mr. Gregory Alba was present. Surprisingly enough, so was Chad Bianco. He was present, and I also got to attend that function. About a 2.5, 3 hour drive just to get from Elk Grove to Danville, California. Interesting little place, Danville, California. Those of you who don't know what it is or what it entails, let me just say this. Medium home price cheap side is $1.8 million in value. Lets you know the type of territory I'm entering. That group was pro-Bianco. Yes, they were. Very evident. They gave both of those gentlemen 30 minutes to speak. They gave me 10. Snafu in the emails, they claim. Be that as it may, we took our 10 minutes. I will say this about Mr. Bianco. We have some differences of opinions. Some of them are highly critical. But he has not crossed certain lines. What does that mean, Leo? He hasn't crossed certain lines. He has not. I'll give it that. Credit due where credit is due. He has not crossed certain lines. He's crossed a few of them that are put him into questionable range, but that's a story for a different day. That event got done at 9 p.m. at night. My wife and I immediately hopped on the road and drove the next 7 hours directly to Yorba Linda, the next candidate forum, which was to feature 13 candidates. But on the 12th, we only had 8 posted and 6 showed up. Greta Solozano, Leo Zaki, Cheon, Gregory Alba, there again, Leo Naranjo IV, yours truly, was there again. No Chad Bianco, but there was Mr. Steve Hilton. Yorba Linda. It's a pretty little town. This is a pretty little city. Thank you very much for the Pat Nixon Federated Women's Republican Group for giving that opportunity to speak down at that forum, down at that group. Shotgun event, fast answers, fast track answers. I think we had almost 14 answers directed to the candidates with about five, maybe 6 questions that were lightning rounds, what they called them, yes or no type answers. Okay. You have a minute and a half to deliver on something. And so your mind is focused on what you need to deliver on. You don't catch nuances unless they're really blatant. You don't grasp everything right away because you're focused on what you have to deliver as a candidate, not so much what's being said around you. And even if you do hear something, bear in mind, the rules state if you call out a candidate by name, you give that candidate an opportunity, an extra 60 seconds to make commentaries for you calling them out. But there's no rebuttal behind it. So you give an edge to the other opponent. Mr. Hilton did that in a positive way, but I challenged him based on the rules. Unfortunately for me, my wife was a little put off by that and surprised by that move. The crowd seemed to be a little bit surprised by that move, and she kind of interrupted the recording because what you didn't see or hear in the recordings was the parliamentarian describe the rule that I had challenged. The rule was the rule. It didn't include what the spirit or the intent was. I believe the intent was if they were called out by name in a negative way, but that's not what was written. The rule was written that if you were called out by name, you got to respond an extra 60 seconds. And the parliamentarian that was present, Mr. Kermit Meach, affirmed that decision, and I was granted an extra 60 seconds. My focus, however, was locked onto the unions, and that's what I delivered on. Took a day to get back. Had to relax. It's a long drive, especially back to back. Very little rest time, but we did. We're safe. Thank you for asking. Now we have a chance with what was recorded, at least from my wife's perspective, of what happened at that event. Now we have a chance to look at some of the commentaries that were made. And I want to apologize for you out there for missing this detail, for not catching it at the point. And even if I could, how would I have addressed it anyway? I'll take the low-hanging fruit first. All of us were asked a lightning round question. Would we commit to reducing state government in size and scope? And I believe we all said yes. So did Mr. Hilton. Bear in mind, on the X platform, he has already announced he wants to create an ombudsman position for medical issues. He wants to create the Cal Doge, which he affirmed at the Pat Nixon group. He's created that department to catch fraud, waste, and abuse. He wants to create another position for a young lady on his team, the golden shower, as I called it, golden ticket as he calls it, that's going to deal with the anti-trafficking issues. 3 new departments he's created in less than a month, and he's not even governor. But yet, when asked the question if he would reduce government size, he affirmed that he would. How do you do that when you're creating more government agencies? And you're reducing a revenue stream into California to pay for these. I'm not creating a Cal Doge anything. I'm going to use the tools that I have, and we're going to route out the fraud, waste, and abuse within the states. That's simple. Don't need to create a brand new department. First off, who would pay for it? Where's that money coming from? And who would they fall under? So on the soft side of this hit, I guess you could say, Mr. Hilton lied to the establishment people that were there. The Pat Nixon group just heard a tale. Now we go to the meat of the point of this video. My topic of conversation that we were handling at that time in the part 1 video I've posted on X, 30-minute.00 to 30-minute.35 is Mr. Hilton's version. But my topic of consternation on that topic, how do we deal with the public union pensions that we're having run amok in California? I was very clear and concise with how I'm going to do that as one way to approach. We have to declare a fiscal emergency in this state. And the template is there. We get $35 billion hole next fiscal year and for the next 3 fiscal years. Now you couple with the other problems that we have. Runaway expenditures, a budget that's ballooned 3 to 4 times its normal size, as described at the Pat Nixon event. Massive amounts of money coming in and twice as much going out. So my thing was to announce a fiscal emergency to bring unions back to the table to have the serious discussion on how we're going to alleviate debt in this state before we start getting ugly in negotiations. That's prudent. That's doable. That doesn't take a lot of fanfare, and that's on the governor to do. But during the clip, during the announcement in this forum, when Mr. Hilton was allowed to give up his presentation, that's when he gave me the by name acknowledgement, which I thanked him for in my challenge, that my ideas sounded kind of sound, but we had to explore another option. This is why I apologize, because I missed his statement. The other option, and it's possibly illegal, he declared. The other option we have to explore is to declare bankruptcy in the state of California. I listened to that video 5 more times to ensure I heard it correctly. And that's what that man did, was wanting to explore how to have California declare bankruptcy to resolve its fiscal problems dealing with public pensions and public employee pensions. Got off the phone today with a very good associate. God, Leo, I wish you had the juice to push this. So do I. That's why I called you. This needs to get out into the world. That's why I called you. Not one candidate on stage, Democrat, Independent, Green Party, Republican, has entertained any notion of declaring bankruptcy in the state of California. Not one. Mr. Hilton has. Not one has announced that it is a potentially illegal thing to do and requires an amendment to the Constitution, state and federal level. He's had conversation with people who are thinking and saying the same thing as he did. My question is therefore, who are those people that are giving you that advice? This has not been done since the 1930s and the Great Depression. And there is a reason for it. We have a Constitution of the United States of America. It is very difficult to alter, and when it is altered, changed, or otherwise, it takes a great deal of effort, and it impacts the country for the betterment of the country. We have a candidate that the Republicans have placed inside of the top 2 tiers, running around this state, being pushed and solidified behind, supported by Republican Party establishment people, who is now wanting to explore possibly getting California to declare bankruptcy to resolve a budgetary problem on public union pensions. And you know that this could be illegal, but you want to still move forward in the attempt to change the Constitution to accept it? I went to the city of Benicia and they were facing bankruptcy too, but there's not one portion of my conversation with their city manager that I ever entertained accepting that as a solution. I went to Isleton in the face of naysayers and political pundits who told me that was a useless waste of time to rally support and fight for a city that was on the verge of losing their identity because of certain board members that wanted to declare bankruptcy as the ultimate solution to their failure, as if it's just another business decision. May not have required a constitutional amendment, but that was still their option instead of exploring other ones that were harder to deal with. They took and chose the path of expediency. Now we have a governor candidate that is doing the same thing on a state level, and the cavalier way that he did it is very distressing. Let's just amend the Constitution so that we can do this and bring the unions back to the table and get this debt under control. That's your solution. Declaring bankruptcy to the fourth or fifth largest economy of the world because you can't handle your public employee union pensions and promises? This is the experience that you bring to this country from your experiences in England? Let me remind some of you folks out there, 11 years ago, they had a financial crisis in England, and Mr. Hilton came up with a wonderful solution: terminate the time off women get for being pregnant. Dismantle maternity leave is what he advocated for. We have a fiscal problem in California. He wants to advocate for altering our constitutions to accommodate fixing a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, the Constitution of the United States of America is not a document that you can just wipe your behind with, and it is not a document that you just frivolously change and alter to fit a social ill or whim. This is very dangerous, the mindset of what this individual has. And it's becoming more and more evident of what he's trying to do when the conversation is swirling around Mr. Hilton's experience in social engineering. Not socially fixing anything. What has he fixed in England? Nothing. He was a policy maker. He wasn't a decision maker. DD 214 alumni, military people get that. We all took oaths, and I remind Mr. Hilton, as with every other candidate out there, you took an oath affirming that you would stand for the Constitution of the United States of America and this state. But Mr. Hilton, you're trotting on very dangerous ground with the assertion that you want to go around our standard laws right now to accommodate your fix to a problem as a way of expediency. The cavalier way to which you did it is dangerous, because it shows to me, maybe not others who are blindly following you, but it shows to me your complete and utter lack of understanding of what the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of California actually means to the people of this nation. You don't seem to grasp or have an understanding of what the Constitution means and stands for, if you can even think about making this type of suggestion. We have to explore other options, and this is one of them, by figuring out how to declare bankruptcy in California. My stance was to declare a fiscal emergency and to work with those entities impacted by that, but to make the least impact against the civilian population, the citizens, the taxpayers of this state. It gives the governor the ability to start redoing pay scales that have gone completely berserk and out of control. 5 people control our PERB, our California pension, public employees pension funds, and they're making over $1 million for their job of doing what? They put us in $1.2 billion in debt because they chose to follow the governor who put them there, and instead of being fiscally responsible, they become politically detrimental to the fund. You went go green on your investments, regardless of oil was the one that was making the money because you don't like oil. My intentions are very clear when it comes to the public employee pensions. The job of those people in that office will be to manage that fund for its own growth and sustainability with little to zero input to the taxpayers. I don't care if you like the investment, as long as the investment puts money into the funding. Okay, if we have philosophical problems with what exactly you are investing in, let the governor make that choice and that decision. You bring to the table your information, he or she will make that call. But you made the call to go green because that's what he wanted. That was your job. You didn't have autonomy. You got rich with $1 million paycheck for a friend, by a friend, and you screwed a state in the process. Three months away from a primary election, and this comes out. But people have known there was a weakness. People have known there was an issue with this candidate. Do we have somebody running up and down the state to see how they could fix it? Or did we have a rich person running up and down the state to envision how he can get his hands on the prizes that nobody else was able to manage to steal? Republican Party members, Republican Party leadership, Republican Party central committees, Republican assemblies, anybody that's a Republican in this state, and I dare say also Democrats and everybody else living here that is a citizen, need to do a real fast, hard gut check and figure out if this is what you want. Because if we can do a nilly-willy change to the Constitution, that's what he wants to do as an option, to declare this state to go bankrupt, to fix a financial issue, what else are we going to abridge or give up or forfeit for expediency? Hey, let's start with the Second Amendment. How about that one? Is that next? Wouldn't you give that up? It'll solve something else. What's the difference? It's just the Constitution, and that's the cavalier attitude I seem to be getting from that gentleman. If that's a business decision, that's a very dangerous decision. For people out there who are union members, what would happen if the state declared insolvency and went bankrupt? Every union contract would be null and void. Every potential contract the state makes with anybody could be null and void. You would throw finances in a turmoil. You would have bond debt probably accelerate because of the readjustment of the loan on the interest for those bonds. You would have a rating go down in California. May it affect the rest of the country? Potentially. There'll be a domino effect. That's how reckless that statement is. And the mere thought of even mentioning it could have already sent ripples throughout the establishment. I'm not a party favorite. I'm not rich and famous. I'm not a consultant. What I am is somebody that's irritated that our state has been led down the path of destruction by people who wish it to stay there. First and foremost, for the citizens of this state, it's that freaking simple. And as far as matching candidates and the abilities of what they have, what they know, or anything else like that, I don't know what Steve Hilton thinks his experience came from. Being a policymaker is not what I call experience of anything. You wrote rules. So what? You wrote regulations. Okay. Government experience in what? How to get around the rules? I've seen those people. I've dealt with those people. That's what they do. That's their function. How to get around the law. How to make a law inconsequential by skirting it and writing a policy that gets you a loophole to get around it. I've stood in Isleton, California to fight against a city accepting mediocrity of bankruptcy to resolve their problems instead of taking on the hard job of actually doing something to fix it. I've stepped up to Benicia to figure out their problem on how to go around the $12 million hole they dug themselves into because they got stupid with environmental controls on a refinery that's now leaving. And oh, by the way, now the federal government is stepping in and mandating these refineries stay and reopen. Kind of like a couple of steps short of nationalizing our oil industry here in this state, something I would not be for at all. But yet, here we are. What experience do you have in that realm, Mr. Hilton? I dare say zero. Have you stood in front of communities on the verge of bankruptcy as their only option instead of taking on the hard task of fixing what they created? No, you have not. Not that I've seen, not that I've heard. And now you want to put this at the feet of the people in California to just say, yeah, don't worry about the Constitution, we'll just amend it. It's only a short fix for now, temporary. We'll declare bankruptcy and all is well. That's what you think about our Constitution for this state and this nation? My name is Leo Naranjo IV. I'm a candidate for governor for the state of California. Governor Newsom has already declared what the Republican Party stands for in this state. A bunch of professional losers who are good at one thing, and that is losing professionally. Mr. Newsom has boldly explained that. He's boldly expressed that, so much so that the freaking staff and basically the legislature of this state have now come to embrace that mentality of what they think about Republicans in California. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you I'm not that guy. This is the wrong person to chew that little tidbit on and think that you're just going to cakewalk over me because you said so. I have and will not subscribe to anything in consideration of bankruptcy for anything in California. We're going to fix our problems the hard, painful way, the right way, the legal way. While this gentleman from the English Isles, now here in America, is trying to figure out how to circumvent our Constitution because he doesn't want to put in the work to actually fix a problem. The magic show is failing, sir. The luster of what you are about is starting to dim. You've lied about reducing state government in size and scope in front of the Pat Nixon group in your Belinda this past week. Now you want people to embrace the concept of just altering the Constitution to make it easier for you to deal with a pension problem, and that entails wiping out their contracts simply by saying the state is bankrupt. We always like to say what California does for this country, how we lead and how we move things by what we do as a state. I want you to all chew on that and what that would look like for California to get this man's way and declare bankruptcy, what that would look like for the state, this country, and this world that we live in. My name is Leo Naranjo IV. I'm a candidate for governor in the 2026 election. You can find me on Leo Naranjo, the number 4gov.com. Please look. Please help, please support, please invest, please donate to the campaign and help me to try and stop this lunacy before we get ourselves in an even worse pickle than we're already in. Thank you very much. You guys have a great and wonderful afternoon.